In my own practice, the thing that I'm trying to find is the condition that I'm working with. The way I think about it is like acupuncture. You're trying to find the pressure point. You can't diagnose everything, and that's the body of research that comes through. I'm Dr. Butler, Brad Butler, and I work at London College of Communication. Mostly here I'm responsible for PhDs. In my own practice, I'm a filmmaker. I've been in a really long and beautiful creative story with a collaborator called Noor Afshan Mirza, and we've been making work together for about 22 years. And then that sort of developed into making more explicitly political work. So we really started to think about how can we use film and experimentation from cinema, from the gallery, through performance, all of the edges of cinema to talk about things that we really cared about, from the local to the global. A project that I'm currently working on, I've just finished a body of work. It's called Kopuşlar in Turkish, or Ruptures in English. And then it has a second title, which is called The Scar. And it has two because Ruptures, Kopuşlar is the cinema feature film, and The Scar is an installation work. And I'm really interested in how those two things are different and how they work on an audience. It's inspired by a real event, a political rupture in Turkey that happened in the mid-90s. So there was this car crash and there were 4 people in the car. And in a way, they should never have been in the car together, and that's part of the story. So there was an elected MP, there was a police commissioner, there was a very notorious right-wing or nationalist assassin, I think would be the best way. And then there was a beauty queen, the only woman in the car. All of this, these characters together, or these people together, were revealed when the car crashed into the back of a truck. And later they found guns and passports and drugs in the back of the car, and it became a notorious incident. Our take on it was to think about the woman in the car. We researched it heavily for a couple of years. We followed all the cycles and stories around it, and we discovered that within 5 or 6 days she's just forgotten by the news. She's just written out. Though she dies in the car crash, she's gone. And so we started to think about this car as the state of the state. The relationships between the police, the political class, and the mafia, essentially. And then we decided to make a film and an installation that asks the question, if this is the state of the state, how do we get out of the car? So in the end, the way you would experience it as a viewer is as a feminist road movie. In the first, let's say, chapter, so to speak, you kind of meet the characters, you sit in the patriarchy. There's a car crash. In the second chapter, we are returned to the car, but now we have a voiceover like a noir, which is coming from the female protagonist. So we get a completely different reading of the scenario. After the rupture of this second stage, we actually started to write a post-patriarchal future. So what could that look like? What would that be? Who were the women? Who would be there? How could that work? What are they talking about? One of the things that interests me, and Nord, my collaborator, is how we can use different situations to create different kinds of experiences. In the cinematic work, we were able to work beginning, middle, and end, and essentially actually allow different relationships to time and space in the film, because essentially an audience is kind of committed in a way. In the installation work, what's exciting is when they enter one of our exhibitions, we usually make the whole gallery like the universe of the film, so to speak. But what we can't control is the order people are going to go through. I can't control how long they're going to stay with each screen when it's a videos piece. Collaboration's an interesting question to think about, especially in relationship to our practice, ours being myself and Noor Afshan. Politically, as we were always interested in the more expansive idea of what collaboration could be. So we never wanted to make our work in isolation. We wanted to become part of a community. We created 2 projects which we could hold that with over time. One was called Nowhere, and it was a film laboratory. And we started to make work as a community where we all started to train each other in those resources, right? So we would share DIY skills, we would help each other on each other's films. And then we were like, well, there's no point having all these films if we're not showing them. So then the next stage was to build a cinema and screening room and performance space. So we built that, and then you're in collaborations with people around showing work, and that was quite interesting. Well, I'm working with PhD students mostly, so I have 6 at the moment, which is the maximum that I'm allowed. Otherwise, I don't know how many I would do, because I really enjoy it. So sort of my job is to kind of hold some of the academic apparatus which is useful, like the structure of things. Like there's certain ways of working that can help, they can bring people to deeper points in their thinking, their practice. But also it's about travelling through the imagination and through ideas. It's about sometimes getting deeply lost and refinding yourself. It's about remembering things that didn't seem important at the time that suddenly become incredibly relevant. The research culture is about that. It's kind of like, it's about the courage to ask questions, to go deeper. So it's my belief that the supervision should happen in teams and that the teams have to meet together. I don't want the responsibility to steer people in the wrong direction or so forth. You need to have other people around that are also bringing in their expertise. They also work, and we do create situations where they can do that with each other. So it isn't sort of like a bubble, which I think it can be in some colleges, but in ours we're trying to work out ways where they can take their sort of like heightened awareness and interest and thoughts and sort of interrogate and bump off each other.